Okay, I'm so tempted to give you guys another cheesy memory hook, but I'm going to try not to. But if you want to know what the 3 Ds stand for, stick with me. I think you'll like it. Hi, I'm Gina. Welcome to
Hope and
Hope.
Cope.
I make these videos with one purpose in mind, and that's to equip people with the powerful spiritual tools that they need to be resilient in life's toughest situations through biblical wisdom and faith in Christ. In this video, we're going to find out how being deliberate and dedicated and disciplined are going to change your life. First, let's talk about being deliberate. So that's the power of intentionality. Nothing in life changes without intentional effort. When faced with overwhelming struggles, it's easy to get caught up in survival mode, reacting instead of acting, or retaliation mode, or worst of all, revenge mode. None of your goals will be accomplished if this is how you choose to respond to life. If you're struggling with a tough relationship or even a loved one with addiction, being deliberate means setting clear boundaries in advance and choosing how you respond instead of being controlled by chaos. It means having healthy boundaries for yourself as well as the other people. It means having a high baseline of personal conduct that you refuse to cross, no matter how the other person conducts themselves. Deciding every day to keep moving forward in faith, even when your emotions pull you in a different direction. Did you see my video on a love that is rejected? I think that's really helpful material, so I will link that at the end of this video in case you missed it. So our next D is to be dedicated. It's the strength of commitment. Being deliberate is the first step, but without dedication, it's easy to give up when things get hard. Dedication means committing to a course of action, even when the results don't come quickly, or sadly, even if they don't come at all. We can look to Jesus as our perfect example and strive to treat people the way he teaches us to treat people. And I have done a video on the past on First Corinthians 13, the love chapter. And it just tells us all about the way that love responds in hardship. And I encourage you this week, make that your homework to go back and read First Corinthians chapter 13 and discover all of the ways that we are supposed to respond in love. Did you know that just staying to the end helps my channel? So if you just watch to the end, which I always try to make the content just as good from the beginning to the end, and if you would like, share, and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. And I will just tell you that in my journey with Rob, there were many times that when I stayed or when I took him back or when I went back home, there were many times that it made me feel like a fool because I knew that part of me in my mind was saying, it's not going to work. He's not going to keep his promises. You're just going to be a fool. And it was hard to force myself to do the things that I felt like God was leading me to do. And I don't ever want to give the impression here that to do the things I did was easy. I think the easiest route for me would have been to follow what I wanted and to deliberately break those ties, but I chose to stay. And boy, that voice, that pride was just like, you're just going to look like a fool. People are going to think you're an idiot. People are going to just think, that you can't stick to your word. And it was just really hard to make myself submit to God and to do what I felt like God had called me to do. But God, he's just really not concerned so much about what other people think of me or even my foolish pride, but he's concerned about my eternal soul and the true light that I shine in the dark world. He wants to show people just how they can be and stay content and how he himself is completely enough. He's all that we ever will need, and how we can stay in the light of his love and have victory over the darkness at all times. In our struggles, we must remain dedicated to seeking God. We must remain dedicated to our personal growth. We are called to be the light of the world. What does that mean to you? What kind of burden and privilege is that? You really should ask yourself these questions, and you should get clarity for your life. If we believe that love conquers all, then we should act like it. If we think that tit for tat is the best method for seeing positive changes in our families and our witness in the world, then by all means, dig in and don't quit. For those of us walking alongside a struggling loved one, dedication means choosing love and prayer and wisdom, even with no guarantee of restoration. A little sidebar here, just from personal experience. Don't write people out of your life unless you feel that God has directed you to. If God has put people in your life, then we should not lightly think that we have the right to remove them for our own convenience. When I was very young, I had a friend. We are still friends to this day. And we were friends in high school during the time there was a Michael W. Smith called Friends Are Friends Forever. And for a summer, she went away. And during the summer, we wrote letters back and forth. That was during the era of, if you wanted to speak to somebody, you picked up on the phone or you wrote them a letter or a card. And we wrote each other letters that summer, and we would always sign it, Friends Are Friends Forever, if the Lord's the Lord of them. And so through the years, we had some difficulties in our friendship, and just friend things that come up in friendships as they grow and as they mature. And I remember the different times that we would really be struggling. I felt like the Lord always just brought back to my memory that friends are friends forever if the Lord's the Lord of them. So it was not, God had put her specifically in my life, and I knew that. And since God had specifically put her in my life, I knew, and I'm sure she felt the same way, that only God should be the one to remove each other from our lives. So we have stayed strong through those tough years, and we are still friends here X many years later, and it's been well worth the work and the wait. But just keep that little thought in mind that if the Lord has brought someone into your life, don't be quick to write them out of your life for your own convenience. Lastly, we're going to be disciplined. So discipline is the key to consistency. Without discipline, even the best of intentions and strongest commitments will fade. Discipline is what keeps us on track when emotions, exhaustion, or discouragement threaten to pull us off course. Think of how Jesus remained committed to his mission even when he was rejected, mocked, and betrayed. Jesus disciplined himself in prayer and fasting and obedience, showing us the importance of daily habits that sustain us. Is there anything coming to your mind that you want to be more deliberate, dedicated, and disciplined about? Can you think of some steps that you can take to help yourself on this journey? I remember when I was reading the Bible just recently, how Jesus had, in this one particular chapter, Jesus had just told his disciples that he's going to be crucified, and he kind of lays this out and just puts his heart out for them to feel the burden of what he's going through. And what do? They start squabbling about who's going to be the first in the kingdom and who's going to sit on his right and his left and who's going to have the most power. And I just think, poor Jesus, he's got these friends, and when he's laying his heart out to let them know this terrible, terrible tragedy that's about to bestow him, all they can think about is themselves. And yet he was so kind and he was so gracious, and I'm sure he was probably exasperated with them, but he was able to not react in such a terrible way. And so I just thought, bless his heart, that he just had to deal with us flawed, prideful, arrogant, self-centered human beings. And so I just wanted to say, as an example, if Jesus can do that on our behalf, then surely we can try our best to do that on behalf of others. If you're dealing with a difficult situation, discipline means refusing to let circumstances dictate your actions. It means choosing healthy coping strategies, maintaining spiritual habits, and staying anchored in the truth. Even if we don't get the results we want, it's very possible that we are being a Christian witness to others and helping them along the way in their struggles. It's not just about me. It's not just about you. It's not just about my life and my circumstances. It's about the other people that are just observing from the outside. And I will just tell you, people that I never even knew were watching my situation with my husband have come to me just a few times through the years and said, what an inspiration my life choices, my path was to them, and it means a lot to me. So we don't know who's watching, we don't know who we're encouraging, and we don't know who we're discouraging. So just be careful about the choices you make, especially when times are really hard. Okay, so my final point here is this is the hard truth. A heart without discipline can cause a lot of destruction. I personally have been there. I've had thoughts of revenge. I've imagined how good it would feel to see someone suffer for hurting my family and me. But God makes one thing very clear in His Word, and that is that vengeance belongs to Him and not me. You feel so justified when you're building this scenario where you're sure you are going to come out on top and that other poor person is going to be crushed like a bug, and fully know the pain that they bear is all of their own making. It's just almost too good to pass up. But we must recognize, number one, that we're probably falling from a trick of the enemy. Number two, it probably won't feel as rewarding as we think it will. And number three, if we are acting out of our flesh, we are 100% guaranteed to really hurt innocent people, probably those that we love the most. And that is not what we want. No, it absolutely is not. But when we choose disciplined faith, even when it's hard, that's when we find true peace, strength, and resilience through walking in the light of God's love. You know, I talk a lot here about my Serenity Blueprint. If you want to learn more about that, please check out the link for the playlist in the description box. That's all free. So thank you for spending this time with me. I hope this message encourages you. Find more encouragement in the description box. Please like, subscribe, and share. Look for new content on Sundays. And remember that I love you. I'm praying for you. God bless.